Hello, and welcome to this Foster Care Institute online training webinar. Parenting Troubled Teens. I'm your host, Dr. John DeGarmo, the founder and director of the Foster Care Institute. I am also an author of several foster care and adoption books. I act as a speaker and trainer on all things foster care and adoption and child welfare related across the United States and across the globe. And I am also a parent, an adoptive parent, a biological parent, a foster parent, just a parent. Indeed, through the years, my wife and I have had over 60 plus children join our family, children as young as 27 hours old, and children as old as 18 years of age, and all ages in between. To say that we've had a number of teenagers come through our home, that would be correct. To say that we've had a number of troubled teens come through our home, that would also be correct. Indeed, I think back to a time where my wife and I had three high school seniors, all from different families, living in our home at the same time. That was a time of great adventure. These three teens were all at different stages in their lives. They all had three very distinct personalities and distinct challenges and viewpoints in life. And that year was one that was very, shall I say, almost entertaining. It was almost entertaining as for my wife and I, as we would just sit back and observe these three teens as they embarked on three different paths in their life. At the same time, it was full of challenges, but it's also a time of great joy. To bring as a parent of teenagers, it can be a time of great joy, great adventure. At the same time, it can be very challenging as well when you are parenting or caring for troubled teens. Our goal during this particular webinar is to increase awareness of how to best parent troubled teens. Our key objectives: to increase the awareness of why teens in foster care might be especially challenging to parent. And we will also gain an understanding of how to develop and implement strategies designed to aid foster parents as you care for troubled teens in your home and in your family. It seems that every time we turn on the media these days, whether it's the television or online, whether it's the radio or in print, we're seeing more and more teens who are troubled, more and more teens filled with angst. To be sure, parenting and raising a troubled teen can be scary. It can be scary. Sometimes you might feel that you are endangered. Parenting and raising a troubled teen can be, to be sure, very exhausting. Perhaps there are times when you feel you are just so tired and exhausted. Parenting and raising a troubled teen can surely be demanding, as they might demand all of your time and effort and energy. There's a great deal of stress and worry that comes along when you parent and you raise a troubled teen in your home and in your family. Yes, raising and parenting a troubled teen can be at times very difficult. Very difficult indeed. And there might be those moments when you say to yourself, I just can't do this anymore. This is scary. This is exhausting and demanding. I am stressed. I'm worried. This is difficult. We need to remember this, that a teen's brain is wired, if you will, wired differently. A teenager's brain is still actively developing during this time, during those formative years of his. See, the brain processes information differently than, say, you or I or a mature adult brain. The frontal cortex, that part of the brain, the part of the brain that is used to manage emotions or to make decisions, the part of the brain, the frontal cortex, that's used to reason and even indeed control inhibitions. This frontal cortex is restructured during the teenage years and does not reach full maturity. The brain does not reach full maturity until around, some say, the age of 25. Now, there are news sources that indicate that perhaps that might even be later. There are those who suggest right now that brain does not fully reach maturity now until the age of 30. Some say it might be because of the inhibitions of social media that have bombarded our lifestyle. Now, according to the ACT for Youth, they say this: teens differ from adults in their ability to read and understand emotions in the faces of others. Adults use the prefrontal cortex to read emotional cues, but teenagers rely on the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional reactions. Research shows that teens often misread facial expressions when shown pictures of adults' faces expressing different emotions. Teens most often interpreted them as being angry. Again, this is from the ACT for Youth. And here we can see that teenagers do indeed read emotions differently, and they might interpret your emotions as being one filled with anger. Even though you may not be filled with anger or feeling emotions of anger, they might misread your emotional cues. Now, why might teens be troubled? Well, perhaps they are suffering from one or a number of mental health issues. Indeed, we are seeing a rise of that in today's teenagers. Perhaps they're struggling with substance abuse problems. Or perhaps teens are struggling with behavioral challenges. Psychotherapist Sean Grover says this: that teens might suffer from something known as developmental depression, which is normal for teens. Sean Grover says teenagers go through a dramatic transformational period driven by biological and psychological maturation, hormone imbalances, and irregularities in brain development. This fuels their emotional instability, he says. And again, we give thanks to Sean Grover for this quote about developmental depression. Again, I note that it is normal for teens. But how about those teenagers who are placed in foster care? How about those teens who might be living in your home right now or who are placed in a foster care environment? Why might they be troubled? Well, there are a number of reasons, and let's look at those reasons. For some teenagers, they might be confused. They simply might not understand why they have been removed from their home, placed in your home, placed in a foster care setting. They simply cannot understand why this is. They're confused. They might see it as an illogical or an irrational move. Now remember, teenagers are not thinking logically during this time as their brain is still forming, yet they might see the removal from them of their home to your home or the foster home as one that is simply illogical. There are those teenagers who may blame themselves. I recall a time when my wife and I had 5 siblings placed in our home. The oldest was 13 years of age, the youngest was 7. This 13-year-old, the teenager, he was responsible for really 2 things: for caring for his younger siblings and for caring for the family finances. No father figures in the life of these 5 children. The mother was struggling with her own issues of drug addictions. So it was truly up to this 13-year-old to keep his family together. When he was placed in foster care and the siblings placed in foster care, he felt he was to blame. He felt he let his mother and his siblings down. He felt that his family was placed in foster care because of his actions. He blamed himself and he struggled with this guilt for some time. How might this guilt have manifested itself, you might ask? In anger. Some teens may feel that they are no longer loved when placed in foster care. Others may feel abandoned. I was mentioning to you earlier about the three high school seniors placed in our home. One of them was abandoned by his mother. He did not feel loved. This is indeed a difficult time for teens, those teens who are placed in foster care, because this is an age where teenagers in general try to find their own identity, where teenagers in general try to, as you say, cut the apron strings. Teenagers want to be independent. Teenagers want their own identity. Yet for those teens in foster care, they may have a label placed upon them or even thrust upon them by society and their classmates and their peers, an identity label that they do not wish to have. A label of being a foster kid, a kid in foster care. No child, no teenager wants that label placed upon them. For teenagers, this is an embarrassment to them. They do not want to be in foster care. They do not want the label of foster kid. They feel they need to be independent and they want their own separate identity. Now, if this teenager has been in foster care for some time, he will have more than likely moved from placement to placement, which is known as multiple displacement. Each time a child or a teen goes from one place to the next, from the next place to the next, and so on and so forth, as you can imagine, issues of trust and issues of attachment develop. For those teens who have been in foster care for some time, years of anger, years of frustration and sadness, years of loneliness, and sadly, years of broken trust will be difficult to break for you, the foster parent, for the caseworker, for a CASA, for a therapist or a teacher. Once more, as this child has been in foster care for some time, even for years, and they move from one home to the next, their levels of anger and frustration, their levels of sadness and loneliness, and their mistrust will be difficult to break. Because trust is one issue. Trust is one issue that teens in foster care will often have a very difficult time with. Now, whether this is the teen's first placement, coming directly from his birth parents' home, or he has been in several foster care homes and has had multiple placements, he might feel that the adults in his life, his biological parents, his foster parents, his caseworkers, his teachers, etc., he may feel these adults have betrayed him in some fashion. Because quite simply, he's lost everything he knows and loves. And he's now in a strange home, your home, a foster home, with people who are not his parents. In truth, all children in foster care want one thing: a normal lifestyle. And for many of them, they want to go back home, including their teenagers, because that is their norm. That is their place they grew up in. A new home, a foster parent's home, is one that is strange and unfamiliar and many times untrusting. And this is a challenge of trust. Many teens will build up walls around them, or barriers, if you will, emotional barriers, emotional walls around himself, quite simply to protect himself, an attempt to safeguard his feelings. You, as a foster parent or as a caretaker, will have a very difficult time, most likely, breaking through these barriers and through these emotional walls. Trust will be difficult to establish, as he believes, very likely, most likely, that he has no reason to place trust in you. And why should he? In truth, why should this teen trust you when he's gone from home to home to home and all the adults in his life he feels have betrayed in some way? Why should he trust you? Therefore, he will place many emotional walls and barriers around himself to protect himself. For some teens, they will try to lie to their foster parent. In fact, lies and mistruths are often common with foster teens. And you'll have a difficult time knowing when he's sincere and knowing when he is misleading you. Because he might be lying to protect himself. He might be giving you half truths to protect himself or to test you. Unresolved anger is an issue that many teens in foster care struggle with. As a result of multiple displacement, from being removed from his home and to other homes, he may have anger towards you, towards the adults in his life, and express that anger towards you. Indeed, he may challenge your rules and expectations within your home. He may argue with you. He may resent the fact that he is being forced to live with people he does not know. Now, let's look at that again. He may be angry because he resents the fact that he is being forced against his will, against his desire, to live with people, foster parents, that he does not know. Your team may try to break as many of your rules and expectations and make your life as miserable as possible in the hope of you asking that she's removed from your home. Because she believes that if she breaks your rules and if she's removed from your home, that she will go back to her biological family members. Now, I, as a foster parent, have seen this time and time again. Teens coming into my home trying to sabotage, if you will, the placement in our home with the belief, with the expectation that they will go back to their family. So they try to make life as miserable as possible for all in hopes that you, as a foster parent, will call up the caseworker and say, this child needs to be removed from my home. Now, again, illogically, they may believe that they will go back to their family, but as we know, they'll most likely be placed in yet another home, which will have issues of trust and attachment for them. Your team may seem highly withdrawn and depressed. He may wish not to be included in any of your family activities, along with any type of social interaction, not only with you and the members of your family, but also maybe with school, your friends, your neighbors. Although you might be bending over backwards to give him every single possible opportunity for him, he may not appreciate that what you are doing for him. And seldom he might thank you for meeting his needs. He may seldom thank you for meeting his needs, providing for him, and showing him kindness and love. The anger, the mistrust, the confusion inside of him is bubbling over, is confusing him, is overwhelming him. He does not know how to process it. So he may be withdrawn. He may be depressed. He may not interact with you. He may not thank you or appreciate you. Indeed, he might even run away. As he has been placed into your home against his will, against his desires, he has no control of this, he might run away. It's important for you to remember this, that those teens who are in foster care, who are suffering from trauma, often are doing the best they can. I would point you at this time to the Foster Care Institute training webinars regarding trauma. Trauma Informed Parenting Part 1 and Trauma Informed Parenting Part 2, and other webinars about trauma here at the Foster Care Institute. I would encourage you to watch those at some point to better understand how your teen might be suffering from trauma. Let's look very briefly at some of these. Perhaps some of these traumatic experiences include drugs or alcohol in the family, perhaps neglect or abandonment, perhaps the trauma of having one of their family members imprisoned. These are all traumatic experiences for any child or teen. When they are moved from one home to the next, multiple displacement, indeed, emotional, social, and psychological effects will take place upon the child or teen. Their mental health is threatened with each disruption. And as we've seen here at the Foster Care Institute in several webinars, their academic performances are lower than traditional students. In truth, children and teens in foster care are on average 18 months behind academically and struggle with reading and math. What are some of the warning signs that the teen in your house is troubled? Well, to begin with, you might see a sudden change in appearance. Perhaps they've suddenly changed their clothing, their hairstyle, piercings. This is a warning sign that they might be troubled. If you've seen evidence of them cutting themselves, this is evidence that they are troubled. Now, let's stop for one moment. If there's a teen in your home who is cutting themselves, you must report it and document it immediately, right away. If you see that a teen has been cutting himself, you need to pick up the phone, call your caseworker, call 911, document all of this. This is urgent. Other signs of troubled teens might be increased arguments in your home or defiance. Those teens who are skipping school on a regular basis, or those teens who are fighting with you or fighting with teachers or fighting with peers at school, may be a sign that they are troubled. Teens who have issues of sleep problems, is an indication that perhaps they are struggling and troubled. Drug use is certainly a sign that these teens might be struggling with something. Depression is a clear indication that they may be troubled. Those teens who bully others may be a sign that they are troubled with an issue. Indeed, we have a Foster Care Institute training webinar all about bullying, and in that webinar we discuss how those who bully others may have perhaps been bullied themselves prior. I would encourage you to watch that webinar at some point. Issues of anxiety is a sign that teens may be troubled, or sudden changes in friends or peer groups is also an indication that they may be troubled. Finally, those teens who spend a lot of time on their phone, who seem to have some sort of phone addiction, this is a sign that they may be troubled. So, whether they are bullying others, or whether they are arguing a lot, or skipping school, whether they have issues of sleep problems, or sudden changes in appearance, how do you help these teens? What can you do to help the troubled teen in your home and to help you and your family? Well, first and foremost, you need to remember who's in charge. Who is the adult in the house? Who is the parental figure? If you feel that you are no longer in charge of your home and the teenager has usurped your role, this is a warning sign for all. You need to remain in charge. You need to remain the parental figure in the home. Now, I would not encourage you to bring down this parental authority in a heavy-handed fashion, particularly when the teen arrives in your home. But you need to remind the teen at times that you are the parental figure, that you are in charge, that your expectations and rules are expected to be met. One thing you can do to help a troubled teen is to remind them and to give them a feeling of safety in your home. Safety is a priority. This teen needs to feel safe in your home and safe while living with your family. These teens can be triggered by noises, by nighttime, by darkness, or ways that you might not be expected, ways you might not expect. Something in your home at any time might trigger their anxiety. You need to remind them that he is safe while living in your home. Don't take it personally, and you're saying to yourself, Dr. John, easier said than done. I understand and I agree. This is easier said than done. When those teens are rolling their eyes at something that you might have said, when they're cursing you under their breath or maybe even to your face, when they are openly defiant to you and to other members of your family, when the teen responds to your comments with sarcasm, when they seem to be indifferent towards you, this can be challenging and this can be difficult. You cannot take it personally, though, because when you do, when you take this eye rolling of his personally, when you take the cursing at you at a personal level, when he's openly defiant to you and you take this as a personal attack, when his sarcasm just increases and you just are taking this personally, or when he's indifferent to you, despite all that you've done, he remains indifferent, and you take this personally, you are placing more stress upon you. You're placing more pressure upon yourself, and this is not healthy for you and your mental health. This is not healthy for the situation. You're placing more stress and pressure upon the situation and for all in the household when you take these actions of the teen personally. Instead, what you need to do is remind yourself this eye rolling, this cursing, this defiance, this sarcasm, this indifference, this has nothing to do with you as a person, as an adult, as a foster parent or parental figure. This has everything to do with the teenager and with his anxieties. This has everything to do with this troubled teen and nothing to do with you. So, again, do not take these actions personally. Because when you do, all will suffer. One of the ways you can help a troubled teen is to identify some of the trauma in his life. Learn to understand the trauma that he may have experienced before he came to live with you, as well as the trauma that his family may have experienced. Find services for this teen that are based on his unique circumstances, and make sure that when you talk to him, it's in a language appropriate conversation. Don't baby talk with him. This will only seem to exasperate the situation. Now, to be sure, when he is being sarcastic at you, he's rolling his eyes, he's cursing you, whatever it might be, there are times when you simply might want to throw up your hands and walk away. You might want to turn away from his teen as his behavior is challenging, too exhausting, too draining, and you've had enough. Yet, what is best thing to do is to try to keep a strong and open connection with that teen. Yes, there are moments when you may need to walk away and take a breath, but don't stop the lines of communication. They need to remain open with you and your teen because communication is key to helping him to learn how to trust once more. So spend time with him. Learn what his interests might be, his hobbies, his dreams, his fears, his concerns, his aspirations, his choices in music and movies, entertainment. Get to know him. Now, perhaps the most important step you can take with helping a troubled teen is establishing trust, building trust with him. To be sure, this will take time, and you will have to have patience. Don't expect the teen to come into your home as a teen from foster care into your foster home setting, trusting all that you say and do. Yes, you provide a wonderful environment, a place of stability, of comfort, of security, of consistency, of structure, of love, yes. But why should he trust you when all the adults in his life have betrayed him in his eyes? So give him space, give him time, allow him time to learn to trust you. Do not make promises to him simply to keep him happy, promises that you know you're unable to keep. Because when he finds out that those promises are broken, that trust that you may have been developing will quickly shatter and crumble. It is necessary for all young children, including teens, to form a healthy relationship, at least one healthy relationship with a main caretaker or an adult figure in his life in order to develop socially and emotionally. Now, for a teen in foster care, what might those forming relationships look like? Who might they form relationships with? Well, perhaps with any type of caregiver or a foster parent. Caseworkers and CASAs, guardian ad litems, are wonderful people for this teen to form a relationship with. Mental health therapists or juvenile judges, perhaps members of a faith-based organization or a church. Even teachers. These are all people that can form a healthy relationship with a teen. When that teen is giving you the eye roll, when that teen is yelling at you, openly defying with you, arguing with you, do not respond in kind. Do not yell or become aggressive, and indeed avoid yelling. Avoid being aggressive towards a child and lower your tone of voice. Lower the intensity of your voice when you respond to this troubled teen. Is it difficult? It can be at times, but it is essential. What is also essential is that you be aware of your own stress levels. When he is stressed out and you feel that you are becoming stressed as well, it might be a moment to take time to step away from the situation and count to the proverbial 10 or 20 before you come back with a lower tone of voice, with less intensity, with not yelling, and listen. Remember when we talked about earlier about not taking it personally? It's very likely the teen in your house will reject all that you do, reject your foster home, reject your rules, reject the opportunities that you give them, reject the warm bed, the food on the table, the clothes, the transportation, reject your unconditional love, reject all that you give them. They have a sense of rejection about everything in your home. Do not take it personally. Indeed, be prepared for this to happen. Try to look at his challenge from a different perspective, not from your perspective, not from the perspective of a parent, but through the eyes of the teen, from his perspective. Try to look at his anxieties and his troubles, his trauma, from his eyes. Look at the problem not through your lens of insight, but through his. Because when you look through the eyes of him, you're gaining some type of insight and awareness of what may be troubling, what might be triggering him. And this additional insight may help you to respond differently next time. In truth, teenagers today do not need anyone else to enable them. It seems that many teens today have been enabled, so to speak. Do not be an enabler for this teen. Do not try to make life easier for him or rock the boat, as they say. If you do this, this is only going to create additional challenges in his future. So do not be that enabler. One of the ways you can help a troubled teen is by providing for them healthier habits. Regular exercise is essential for the teen's well-being, both physically and mentally, as well as socially. Perhaps you could go for a bike ride with them, or maybe throw a football around or play some basketball. Maybe you could get a membership at the gym with them, or do some type of cardio in the mornings or afternoons in your own home. Try to ensure that teens get plenty of sleep. Now, this is essential for teenagers. As you remember, their brain is still forming and they need that time of sleep. Diet is one key component to a healthier lifestyle for today's teens. Make sure that their diet is not filled with junk food and sodas. Indeed, try to give them a nutritional and healthier diet. Moderate their time on the computer, online, and on the phone. The more time a teenager spends online, the unhealthier it is for them socially as well as mentally and emotionally. Indeed, many troubled teens spend much too much time on the computer and the phone and online. And sometimes this is where those challenges come from. Now, I have found that sometimes when I have teens in my home, it feels that I am walking a tightrope, so to speak, and doing a balancing act. Perhaps you have felt the same way. When you are guiding a teen, you need to try to find some type of balance between guiding them and granting them too much freedom. Find that balance where you help them, but also allow them their own freedoms. Don't always try to control them. Try to let that go. Don't control every single aspect of their life because they will rebel. Instead, allow them the opportunity, if you will, to make their own choices and to grow and learn and experience from real life consequences. Is this to say that you are to abandon their teen and allow them the freedom to make their own decisions? Well, yes and no. You are there to help instruct them and to guide them and to teach them and to protect them. At the same time, they need to learn real life consequences at the same time. And the more heavy handed you are in guiding them, if you will, the more they may wish to rebel. So it's again a balancing act of helping and instructing them and also allowing them freedoms. We all need structure, and teens in particular need structure. And they need structure in your home. They might rail, they might refuse, they might stick up their nose or eye roll against your rules, your expectations, your daily schedules, yet structure is essential and important in their life and their well-being. This means regular meal times for them, bedtimes, regular expectations, consistent rules. All this helps them to feel safe, to feel secure in your home. Try practicing having the same time of mealtime in your home if possible, sitting down at the table together as a family unit. No devices, of course. Try to stick to the same type of bedtime during school evenings. Make sure that your rules and expectations for him are consistent. Again, this helps them to feel safe and secure in your home. When a teen is ready to talk, it's time for you to listen. Put down the phone, put down their laptop, stop cooking, and listen. If they share with something to you that might be shocking, do not overreact. Do not be critical of anything they might tell you. Just listen. Nurture that teen and comfort them, yet do so in an appropriate manner. And again, we talk about this in other foster care institute training webinars. So make sure that your nurturing and your comforting is done in an appropriate manner. Again, provide consistent structures each and every single day with meals and playtimes, chores, etc. And at the same time, as any parent knows, learn the art of flexibility. You must be flexible when you are caring for troubled teens in your home because it may not go according to how you planned it. Always be on the lookout for something that might trigger your teen's trauma and anxiety. Look for patterns. Again, be emotionally and physically available for them when they're ready. Indeed, be available for them at all times. Remind them that the feelings and anxieties they might be feeling, that anger, that sadness, that confusion, that loneliness, that frustration, that's normal for them. Remind them that it's normal and it's okay to have those sort of feelings. Now, when it is possible and when it is safe, allow that teen to be a teen. Allow that person to be a teenager. Allow him to dress in his own unique style. Allow her to get a driver's license. Remember, when these are possible. Help her to get a job. Help him to open up a bank account. Teach them how to save money. Not only does this help them now, but also helps them when they age out so they are prepared for these important living skills and social skills. One of the ways you can allow them to be a teen is to encourage him to enroll in sports and school clubs. Encourage him to express his emotions in a healthy fashion. Now, when he's angry, show her how to deal with it, if you will, in a healthy and respectful fashion. There's a good chance that no one has taught her how to express her emotions in a healthy fashion. That is part of your role as a foster parent, teaching her how to express herself in a healthy fashion, which means not going online and sharing every single emotion as soon as she feels it, which means not allowing herself to scream and yell and curse every time she becomes upset. She will need you to help her learn how to express her emotions, her normal feelings, and so in a healthy fashion. Take an interest in his friends and families. Take an interest in what his friends like to do, what his family members are doing. One of the ways you can help a teen in foster care is help prepare them for life outside of foster care, life outside of the foster care home after they age out of the system. And one of the ways you can do that is to help him research future career possibilities. Does he want to go to college or a technical school? Is he interested in the military or some type of trade job? Help him research future career possibilities because there's a good chance no one has done so and no one may do that. I'm a big believer in the power of praise. Children and teens, in fact, all of us need to hear words of praise every single day and in several ways. So find ways, find opportunities, find times to praise teen in your home throughout the day and in separate ways. And there's a great list there on how you can praise and encourage through the power of your words. You have heard me say this time and time again at webinars and in person. When my car breaks down, I'm going to call a mechanic because I can't fix it. I'm not a professional. Here in the deep south of Georgia where I live, it gets rather toasty in the summertime. And where my wife lives in Australia, when we lived there, it gets rather warm. When the air conditioning breaks, I can't fix it. I'm not a professional. I'm calling for help. When my children have an issue with perhaps their teeth, I'm going to call a professional dentist. The same applies for helping troubled teens. There will be times when you might need to call a professional therapist, a professional counselor. This in no way is indication that you are a bad parent, a bad foster care. This does not mean you're a failure caring for this teen. In fact, I believe it's just the opposite. When you recognize that you can't offer the support and resources this teen might need, and instead you call up for professional help, for a professional therapist or counselor, you are being proactive. You are actively seeking out resources and help that this teen needs. So it's okay to do that. In fact, I encourage you to find professional help for your teen if they might need it. Be realistic and reasonable with your expectations with your teens. Don't expect that when he does go to a professional therapist or counselor, or he's receiving professional treatments, this is going to quickly resolve all of his issues. Do not be unrealistic in that expectation. Yes, love does heal many wounds, but not all of them. Don't expect that simply loving the teen will be the quick fix to all of her problems. Now, medications can surely be used to treat behavioral concerns, and many teens or children in foster care are prescribed medications. But the real work, the real healing, is done through other types of therapy, whether it's animal therapy or play therapy, art therapy, music therapy, or other types of therapy. And we go into that in the book, The Foster Care Survival Guide. Always consult a doctor and the caseworker for your teen before giving the teen any sort of medication. In addition, you need to make sure that you are documenting every time you give a child in your home medication. Be proactive. Take action. When you see a teenager spiraling out of control, take action. If you see that he might be suicidal or has had suicidal thoughts or comments, immediately contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Once again, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Write that down and have it in your phone. And when you do so, also contact your caseworker as well. If you feel the teenager in your life is placing you, your family, himself in danger, call 911. Take action immediately. Caring for a teenager can be wearisome, difficult, stressful, can be exhausting, can be debilitating at times. It's important that you care for yourself. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is important because if you cannot care for yourself, there is no way that you can care for the teen in your home. So find your own support group. Find your own ways to care for yourself. Make sure that you exercise, whether it's riding a bike, going to the gym, taking a walk. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. Again, these might all seem difficult, and you might say, Dr. John, how can I do this? I don't have time. You need to make sure that you make time to care for yourself. Otherwise, you will not be able to care for this teen. And remember, all things come to an end. This eye rolling, this sarcasm, these will not last forever. At some point, things can get better. Things will get better for everyone, for all involved. And remember this. When that teen is rolling his eyes at you for the umpteenth time, when he is giving you the 100th sarcastic comment in the past week, when he's arguing with you time and time again, when he's being indifferent and showing you no reaction whatsoever, this is when he needs your love the most, your unconditional love. Yes, he might be trying to sabotage the placement in your home. He might be trying to push all of your buttons. He might be just filled with so much anger. He needs you to love him unconditionally. For much more, visit the drjohndegarmofostercare.com website, the Foster Care Institute. Find so much more on Facebook and Twitter, as well as LinkedIn and YouTube at Dr. John DeGarmo. Email me at drjohndegarmo@gmail.com for much more. Now, being a foster parent for a troubled teen is exhausting. It is weary. It is stressful. That's why this book is one that you need. The Little Book of Foster Care Wisdom, 365 Days of Encouragement and Inspiration for Today's Foster Care Families, is one that you're going to want to put on your bedside table and read each morning to get the encouragement, the tips, the inspiration that you need. And there are several other best-selling books at the Foster Care Institute, one that's right for you right now. I want to thank you for taking part in this Foster Care Institute training webinar. I want to thank you for being a foster parent. It is not an easy job, but it can be so very rewarding. Rewarding not only for the child, but for yourself as well. For the Foster Care Institute, I'm Dr. John DeGarmo.